WCBI News at 10 starts now.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Lyle Livingston. One person was taken to the hospital after a car crash in CHOCTAW County. Fire Coordinator Kirk Rosenhan says a single car wreck happened around 8 a.m. Saturday morning. He says the car was heading north on Old Highway 25 when it left the road, hit a large tree, then ended up in a drainage ditch. Firefighters and EMTs helped the driver before taking him to OCH Regional Medical Center. The CHOCTAW County Sheriff's Department, District 5 Fire and Rescue, and OCH were on scene. Investigators are trying to figure out what caused a deadly plane crash in Georgia. Saturday morning, a single-engine airplane crashed at the airport on St. Simon's Island, killing the pilot. No one else was on board. You can see plane parts scattered on the edge of the woods, the ground and trees in that area charred from the fire. The FAA says the Cessna C-182 took off from Savannah International Airport, but they're working with the National Transportation Safety Board to pinpoint the cause of the crash. Floodwaters in Oklahoma have overtaken at least 1,000 homes and left 2 people dead. Omar Jamenzin has the details on the impact across the state.
All Kent Bruce could do was stare. Knee deep in water, his home flooded.
I knew it was here, so I'm just speechless right now.
It's a familiar feeling for all too many across the plains and Midwest. Many places still recovering on the tail end of what's been a week that's brought deadly tornadoes, heavy rain, and life-saving water rescues.
It's important for us to maintain this series of dams because the water continues to flow in.
Lieutenant Colonel Adam WEECE is with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and over the course of days, they've slowly had to increase the amount of water they release from the Tulsa area Keystone Dam to near historic levels, just to keep up with the high water.
Keystone Dam, which has been the focus point for us most of the time, has a release rate of approximately 250,000 cubic feet per second. If you do the math, that equates to approximately 1,000 school buses per second going through the dam.
Across the Tulsa area, more than 1,000 residents have been impacted by flooding so far.
Please pay attention because the weather can be fickle, as can the river. And obviously we're watching the levees very closely.
It's advice that applies across the state, the governor declaring a state of emergency for all 77 counties in Oklahoma. Just north of Oklahoma City, these homes are barely hanging on after flooding eroded the ground beneath them. And in Tulsa, this riverside neighborhood is now very much part of the river.
I walked to the end of the street and then everything's underwater and I wasn't going to go wading through because I didn't know what I might step on.
The risks are still very real.
Even though the rain has stopped here, water that is falling north of us, that's falling upstream, is continuing to gather and continuing to funnel towards the areas here.
Which means more people could be affected and more homes like Bruce's.
Where do you go from here?
Probably to higher ground.
It's now time to turn things over to meteorologist Jacob Dickey for our first look at our forecast. Jacob?
Yeah, Riley, the rain continuing in Oklahoma and Texas out there. More big storms pushing through those areas now. They are seeing the rain continue to fall. There's been flash flood emergencies yet again. Now, they've seen 2 to 4 inches today over the last 24 hours, but that's on top of the foot plus they've seen overall. The heavy rain there continuing likely the rest of the weekend. Locally here, though, things are dry. We're in the 70s right now under a mostly clear sky. Temperatures will stay here in the 60s overnight and maybe 70s. As we get to tomorrow, though, the heat is back on. We'll tell you how high we get and take a look at the 7-day forecast coming up in just a bit.
Thanks, Jacob. In Hawaii, a hiker who'd been missing for more than 2 weeks has been found alive. Hundreds of volunteers were looking for her, but it wasn't until rescuers decided to search a completely different area that they got lucky. Here's Carter Evans.
The last 17 days of my life have been the toughest days of my life.
Speaking publicly for the first time from her hospital bed, Amanda Eller describes the fear she faced while being lost in a Hawaiian rainforest for more than 2 weeks.
It did come down to life and death, and I had to choose. And I chose life.
She was airlifted to safety Friday after rescuers found her trapped in a ravine with injuries to both of her feet.
I was crying with tears of joy. You know, I just am so incredibly
grateful to have my girl home.
Amanda's mother, Julia, traveled to the island of Maui after her daughter disappeared.
They said for what she had been through, she was in surprisingly good shape.
Rescuers say Amanda lost 20 pounds while she was in the rainforest. She survived by foraging for berries and fruit.
She had a waterfall, she had access to water. She never even thought that there'd be national news and $50,000 rewards.
Amanda was reported missing on May 9th after her car was found near a trail where she often hiked. Surveillance video showed her shopping at a store hours before she disappeared, but there were no other clues. Hundreds of volunteers canvassed the area for weeks, but it wasn't until Friday, when rescuers decided to search a completely different area from the air, that they found Amanda 3 miles from the area where she disappeared.
I have the most gratitude and respect and appreciation. I can't even put it into words for the people that have helped me, for the people that have prayed for me.
Rescuers say Amanda told them she had only planned on taking a short hike, but she got lost and couldn't find the way back to her car. She is now expected to make a full recovery. Carter Evans, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The Eupora Community Center played host to the 2nd annual William Golden Memorial Singing this morning. Gospel singers from Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia gathered together to pay tribute to the famous songwriter who was born in Webster County in the 1800s. Golden wrote many acclaimed gospel songs, including A Beautiful Life. Singers at the event say they don't want to see the art of gospel singing and songwriting die out.
Gospel music, most people were raised on this type of singing, and now today a lot of praise and worship music has begun to take its place, and there's nothing wrong with praise and worship, but I would love to see the old songs continued, at least in part.
Woodson says William Golden is buried in Spring Valley Cemetery in Webster County. For many people, it's a Memorial Day weekend tradition, heading to the campground for some family fun. And those in Choctaw County usually head out to Choctaw Lake. Our Cash Matlock brings us a story.
It's kind of like the unofficial kickoff of summer.
John Furr is a forestry technician at Choctaw Lake in the Tom Bigby National Forest. He says the holiday couldn't have fell at a better time.
With the recreation work and the use of these type areas, really, I've noticed over the years, it's a lot dependent on the weather. So we have a really nice forecast, you know, for this weekend and the next few days ahead. So it's going to be pretty busy out here.
In fact, the nice weather provides campers with an opportunity to swim, hike, have a picnic, or even go fishing.
My dad and me come camping sometimes. We like to enter the fish contest. I've caught one, but it didn't have the tag on it.
Furr says when it comes to using the lake's facilities, safety is the park's #1 priority.
You know, in the swimming area, it's always good to have a partner and never swim alone and have someone accountable for each other. And if you're in a boat, be sure to wear your life jackets.
He says the lake provides a safe and fun place for people who otherwise wouldn't have anywhere to go for the weekend.
A lot of people depend on the public places like this to come to because they don't have a place to go, especially in a rural community like we're in, and they look to federal and state agencies to have places to come.
But Furr says the park is about more than just having a good time.
When you come out like this, you can kind of leave your cell phones at home, and you can spend time with mom and dad and aunt and uncles and your cousins and brothers and sisters, and just, you know, enjoy the outdoors. There's a lot to offer in the outdoors that you don't see unless you get out here and, you know, participate in it.
Park employees say the $5 entry fee as well as the donations all go towards helping keep the park clean and functioning. Festival season is in full swing. After the break, we'll tell you all about one local festival that's celebrating its 39th year. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The city of Louisville hosted their 39th annual Red Hills Festival. Our Stephanie Poole went to the event and has the story.
Lines are everywhere on Main Street, and getting through the maze of people might be a challenge. The Red Hills Festival brings food, amusement rides, musical entertainment, and a car show. But those aren't the only reasons why people come out. It's the vendors. For the past 20 years, Ann COGHLAN and her husband come to the festival selling artwork.
God gave me something special to do. I've always been interested in painting and in gourds.
COGHLAN has decorated these gourds for over 20 years.
They're so unique, you can do anything with them.
COGHLAN says putting inspirational messages on the gourds is one way she connects with clients.
People like to have a word of encouragement that they can just look at and pass it along to someone else that might be having a hard time.
Down the street sits vendor Doreen Kennedy. Kennedy sells a diverse collection of art.
I just love to be creative with my hands.
Kennedy says participating in the festival allows her to connect with the community.
It's an opportunity not just to get my work out there for people to see, but also to meet other vendors and just find out just how well they're doing and just to, get to know other people.
Both artists say they plan to continue to participate each year.
Well, the heat wave is continuing here across the southeast this weekend. There is some relief around the corner. It comes in the form of a few isolated storms in the forecast. Those details are for you after the break.
WCBI First Alert AccuWeather Forecast with meteorologist Jacob Dickey.
Looking nice and calm out there on our Alpha Insurance Skycam network across the region. No real problems out there. We are cooling off with the sun setting in Starkville down to 72 here at the 10 o'clock hour. Dew point at 68, so it still is a bit of a summer-like feeling out there, seeing 70s all across the board. Still, though, 81 in Aliceville. Other than that, 72 in Starkville and Calhoun City. West Point at 79. We're at 75 in Macon, Louisville at 74. Now, as we look to tonight, temperatures will be falling into the upper 60s. Maybe one or two of us gets left at 70 here. Aliceville, you're at 70. 69 in Columbus and in Macon. 66 in Eupora and in Calhoun City. We'll be under a mostly clear sky tonight. On Sunday, warming up again. Middle 90s is where we're heading for. Very hot out there. Look for light winds, generally under 5 miles an hour. That's not going to do anything for us, really, to keep us cool. 95, where we're ending up in Tupelo. 94 in Amory and in Aberdeen. Calhoun City and Bruce at 93 on our Sunday afternoon. A little bit warmer to the south here. Columbus, West Point, both at 96. 97 in Macon. We'll get to 94 in Winona and Eupora. Winona at 93. And then in Vernon, 93 there, 92 in Solent. Reform also at 94 on Sunday afternoon. Now look at this here. Futurecast heat index values in the upper 90s and low 100s tomorrow afternoon. Very hot out there. Our temperature should be in the middle 80s this time of year. As long as we've got this high pressure around, that's acting as that pressure cooker, keeping things cooking here at the surface, keeping them boiling. We also are keeping the storms away. So here's how the next 4 days are going to look here. Maybe it's not that quite bad, but we feel like we're burning up outside, and all of this summer weather coming quite early. Heat index values, upper 90s and low 100s, a few degrees above where those actual temperatures are. Thursday, though, back a little closer to average into the upper 80s. I think what happens is this cold front, as it slides on in here, it'll push in our direction slowly. It won't make it. It won't make it. But what it will do is send a few scattered showers and storms our way, and that's about all of the relief we're going to get here. Overall, though, the rain amounts are very light, maybe 1/10 of an inch in some spots. A lot of us are going to stay dry here all the way as we wrap up the month of May here. By next weekend, already, it's June 1st. Tonight, upper 60s, mostly clear, muggy, and mild. Over the next 7 days, things really are just cooking out there. We're seeing 90s all the way through Wednesday. An isolated shower can't be ruled out Wednesday, maybe a few scattered storms on Thursday and on Friday. Don't hold your breath, though. I think really for the majority of us, all the way through next weekend, things remain warm and dry.
The Rebels have officially punched their ticket to the team's second consecutive SEC championship. Highlights are coming up next in sports.
WCBI Sports with Courtney Robb.
Head coach Mike Bianco talked about the importance of persistence after Friday's comeback victory against Arkansas. And persistence has been the story for Ole Miss all week long. Even in today's game against Georgia, the Rebels were down by 2, but held on. And now Ole Miss, for the second year in a row, is headed to an SEC tournament championship. Let's see how the Rebels were able to pull it off. Ole Miss back at it on the diamond in Hoover, Alabama, taking on the Georgia Bulldogs. Emerson Hancock getting the start for the Dogs. Tyler Keenan hits a double down the right field line, but the Rebels failed to bring him home. Houston Roth pitching for the Rebs, still scoreless until Mason Meadows takes this one for a ride over the left field wall for a homer. Georgia taking an early 2-0 lead. Now bottom fourth, Ryan Olenek hits one into the sky, and that no one can track down. It drops in for a single. Next batter, Kevin Graham lines one to right field for an RBI single, tying the game up at 2 apiece. And then the top of the 5th inning, Aaron Shunk hits one out into left field. That'll be an RBI single, and that ties the game up at 3-all. Bottom half of the inning, one on, Tony Losi pitching to GRAE Kessinger, who hits this one from Hoover to Birmingham over the left field wall. A 2-run jack for Kessinger. The Rebs take a 5-3 lead, and Ole Miss goes on to close the deal and get the victory. The final in this one, Ole Miss 5, Georgia 3. The Rebels will take on Vanderbilt on Sunday. WCBI's Chris Bolton reports from Hoover with more on the matchup. Hey, Chris.
Courtney, the comeback here strike again as Ole Miss pulls off another come-from-behind victory. Now, this is starting to become a trend for the Rebels, as every game they've won this tournament, they trailed in. Now, all tournament long, the team has struggled to bat. But today, the bats were just hitting differently, as Ole Miss had 11 hits. And it was the aggression that they showed at the plate that led them to the victory.
Even though I thought, had some jam shots and some balls, fall our way, we also hit some balls hard right at people and really kept the pressure on Hancock. I thought that was the difference, after the first inning, I thought we had some really good at-bats that just kept pressure on them, and, probably the difference in the game.
We were really focused, we were very intense, and, every pitch, you could just see, in the at-bats and the pitches that the guys were just locked in, and, those guys are really good, and so if you're going to beat them, that's how you got to do it.
I think they're a great team, and I think they've got a chance to make a lot of noise in the postseason. If they are a 2 seed, the 1 seed's not going to be very happy to see them, I can tell you that.
Now, the question of if Ole Miss would be able to host the regional could quite possibly be solved with the win in tomorrow's SEC championship game. Reporting in Hoover, Alabama, Chris Bolton, WCBI Sports.
Well, another Ole Miss team trying to get things done on the diamond, but this one over in Arizona. I have those highlights coming up later in sports. Stay with us. Ole Miss looking to force a Game 3 against Arizona to keep their postseason alive. Bottom of the first, bases loaded. Brittany Finney at the plate. Alyssa Denham gets the strikeout to get the Cats out of an early jam. Then we head to the top of the 2nd inning, and Hannah Bowen up to bat for the Wildcats. Molly Jacobson on the mound strikes her out for her 2nd K of the inning, and that will send it to the bottom frame. Moving into the bottom of the 3rd, Arizona up by a run. Autumn Gillespie with power in her arm shoots a bomb over the river and through the woods. To downtown Tucson we go, and knocks the game up at 1 apiece. Top of the 7th, Cats jumped out to a big lead. Tillman on the mound. Arizona's Karanko knocks one to short, but an error gets her through to first and also brings home the 9th run of the game for the Wildcats. A very large lead at this point late in the game. Bottom of the 7th inning, a last chance effort for Ole Miss. KESSINGER Becker with a single through right and up the middle, gets out to center field, and Becker will be safe at first. But Ole Miss unable to pull off the huge comeback in this one. The road to the College World Series will end in Tucson for the Rebels. 9-1 the final against Arizona, and it'll be back to Oxford for Ole Miss as the season comes to a close. On Wednesday, MSU and LSU played a game that went to 17 innings. I know you can't forget that one, but Friday evening, bit of a different story. That game ending for the Bulldogs and the Tigers in just 7. LSU's offense exploding in the 3rd and 4th innings, totaling 12 runs for the Tigers, and MSU could only answer back with 2. The game eventually being run-ruled would end with the Diamond Dogs' dreams of obtaining the 2019 SEC tournament title, and with that, the team is headed back to Starkville and preparing for the road to Omaha. Here's head coach Chris LEMONIS' thoughts after the game.
Kind of got away from us in the 3rd and the 4th inning. JT started really strong, but we just, didn't make some plays, didn't make some pitches, and you got to tip your hat to LSU. They had some great ABs in there and put some pressure on us. You're playing against the best in the SEC, so our guys are chiseled. They've been through it. They've been on the road. They've been here. We'll be ready.
Well, if you're looking to watch that Ole Miss versus Vanderbilt game, this is one for all of the marbles tomorrow in Hoover, Alabama. That game will be on ESPN2. First pitch is going to be at 2 p.m. and also WCBI Sports will be there. We'll have all the action coming up for you tomorrow night on WCBI Sports at 9 and 10. Hopefully, our Rebel team is able to pull off their 2nd consecutive SEC championship title. That's it for sports. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll have more when we come back. Stay with us.
A team of divers Saturday put the finishing touches on an underwater art exhibition on the wreck of the USNS General Hoyt S. Vandenberg, an artificial reef off the coast of Key West. The project, titled Plastic Ocean Project, created by Austrian artist Andreas Frank, highlights the impact of plastics on the world's oceans. The debut coincides with the 10th anniversary of the sinking of the 523-foot Vandenberg artificial reef. The 24-piece series features models, children, and babies in water surrounded by plastic garbage collected along the coast of Italy in a single day. The exhibit also includes individual plastic items placed over statements relating to ocean pollution. Each artwork is individually encased in plexiglass, mounted in stainless steel frames, and sealed with silicone before being attached to the Vandenberg's hull. Exposure to salt water, algae, and microorganisms will gradually transform the appearances of these pieces.
That's kind of cool, I guess. Maybe that's a fun way to stay cool, too,
yes,
is to go scuba diving. About this time of year, the only way you can cool off is to be either in the air conditioning or in the pool. 96 tomorrow, feels like 100 plus in some spots. A little bit of relief as we get later this week, but I don't think it's going to last.
I'm not loving the humidity, not loving the heat so much.
Right?
So.
Welcome summer.
Yep. We hope everyone has a great night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.